Okay, here we go. So I was just going to talk a little bit about um, the residency and the sort of ways in which I'm like kind of revisiting it. I was sort of circling around before with these kind of little dog drawings. But after looking at Marina Abramovich's work,
Ab- Ab-
um, oh,
Abramovich.
pardon?
You can just say Abramovich.
Abramovich. Okay, cool. That's embarrassing. Butchered that. Maybe delete that. Um, um, anyway, I just kind of was like looking at what to kind of put in the show and yeah, I thought I'd just like do a really quick lowdown on like the residency and then where I'm at now with it.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, I did the residency last year in 2024. And the intention was to um kind of work on a narrative project about grief. So um yeah, I lost both of my parents in 2020. And prior to the residency, I'd made a lot of work that wasn't really about that, wasn't really tackling grief um, as a subject. And like I wanted to kind of use the residency to explore that, as well as kind of branching outside of the illustration medium and tapping into more of a kind of the contemporary art world, if I could anyway. Um, so yeah, I was there for about a month working on this story about a girl who is navigating the loss of her parents along this river. Um, and obviously, Belgrade has a nice big river to set the scene for the story. Um, and she kind of comes across different characters that represent the different phases of grief. So anger, denial, um, bargaining, depression, and the rest. And each character represents different ones. So I was kind of like walking around, at the beginning, I was like kind of walking around the city and looking for kind of scenes, I guess, along this riverbank. Um, and it was important to me that these were like urban scenes, because I grew up in a city, a busy city, and moved to Cornwall after my parents died, which was a big seaside town. And it was felt strange to be processing a lot of stuff in an unfamiliar land. So I wanted to go to an urban place to sort of explore these ideas and explore this like familiar yet unfamiliar world that this character might be moving through. Um, so these are just some photos of the side of the river and these kind of quite derelict places that I found that I thought may be a good stage to host some of the scenes in the comic. Um, and yeah, I started to kind of explore how I work mostly digitally when I draw and make comics. So I was trying to like play around with applying digital drawing onto these photos. Um, this is like the main character kind of she's like she's met this troll who's kind of creeping in the background there, who and the troll represents depression. So just kind of like this idea of her being stuck with depression on her back. And then this is another character, Misha, who represents denial. And she's kind of like staring at this, I guess, the depressed Rio, like the depressed character, um, with a sort of toxic boyfriend walking away from her. Um, And yeah, I was looking at Louise Bourgeois, I guess, as kind of inspiration for like raw emotions. I think she's like she yeah, her work to me really I find quite powerful, like especially the intensity of emotion, basically. Quite a lot of the time anger, um, like raw anger and frustration, and yeah, anger especially is an emotion that's especially like alien to me and quite difficult for me to understand, really. So yeah, there's a bit of Louise Bourgeois. And then I did some sort of lots of playing with ink drawings of the characters and like snippets from the story um, on like this kind of rough paper. And it was quite a nice way for me to like fluidly just kind of hash things out. Um, this is when she like gets whisked away by this fairy godmother into the new world that she has to navigate. She goes on the bus to on the road to acceptance, basically. So the idea that like acceptance is like the final phase of grief, but this is like sort of undisclosed destination. And the story is sort of like her trying to find her way there, but um, it's yeah, it's kind of confusing. Um, and here's Milosh the troll, who represents depression, um, and some other kind of like creatures that are in this river. Um, and I did quite a lot of drawings of him. More drawings of the fairy godmother. I wanted her to kind of be this like omnipresent, creepy but friendly grandma type lady. Um, the kind of person that you sort of see at a bus stop, and like if you meet eyes with her, you don't know whether she's gonna like I don't know, beat you or hug you. Um, and this is another character, Boris, who like represents anger, and I kind of like imagined anger to be represented as like a child because it's a very like childlike emotion. Um, and I feel like when we get older, our anger as an emotion is sort of suppressed because as an adult, it's not really kind of like I don't know, acceptable in society to feel raw anger like that. So when it does, you kind of this like inner child kind of comes out. Um, and yeah, the exhibition, the final show was just this kind of like open sketchbook, I guess, of like all these ideas. And I kind of treated the wall as like this collage diary type thing with like notes and um ribbons, and the project was called Ribbons because I I felt like when you go through something, people always say, "Oh, you're so brave," and it's kind of this unwanted ribbon of like award of bravery. Um, that yeah, so I was just kind of playing with the irony of this like this ribbon. Um, And yeah, so I made a comic. I made the first edition of the issue of the comic. I drew it on Procreate. I sketched it all up and drew it on Procreate and printed it. And like there was a section for each character, and it was all very like polished and finished. And that's sort of like at the time, that's what I wanted. I wanted like a finished comic, and I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a comic for each part of the story, and the next thing I'm going to do is like work on issue two and the next leg of that story. Um, but looking back on it, I'll talk about this Ursula Le Guin stuff in a minute. But looking back on it, I actually think that the it's this is just part of the idea, this finished comic thing. And actually, what's more interesting to me is these like inky drawings and this um the process basically. And that was like something that that you said to me got, so it's like try and treat the process as part of the work. So I've been thinking more about that, and also this um, she's this lady. She's a writer called Ursula Le Guin. She's a science fiction writer, but I quite often think of this essay that she wrote called "The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction," and basically she sort of talks about how storytelling is an ancient practice, and we've been doing it since the caveman days, and the story of man and the kind of ascension of man. um she compares it to like the head of a spear and the hero's journey, but actually what she kind of argues is that stories are less like arrows, and more, and which are kind of actually quite breakable and fragile, and more like bags and like sort of sacks to carry things in and carry things through. And she kind of compares the sort of like I guess it's kind of a feminist writing as well. So she talks about how like the sort of hunter gathering sort of role of women, I guess, through time, but it doesn't really even need to be about women, to be honest. But I just like this idea of like a story being a container and a way of like carrying bits and pieces of things. And then this kind of makes me think of like stories within stories. So with that, I was sort of like playing with this idea of like just I don't know, just really simply like layering these characters on top of the photos from Belgrade, and like this very simple just layering of photos and drawings kind of like represents this idea of like a story within a story. um and it feels a bit more interesting than the kind of final narrative of the comic. So these are the sort of these are sort of like what I did um last week, basically, like a year on from the project, and that this is what I'm gonna like submit or have submitted into the show for supermarket. Um, and I think what I struggle with sometimes is I make a drawing and then I really don't really know. It's like this kind of flat singular thing, and then I feel like it needs to be polished and presented, and I don't really know where to take it from there. But then suddenly
Mm.
when I'm like layering with photography and drawing, and it suddenly becomes more la layered, basically, obviously.
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, that's it. And I was really like just interested to hear your thoughts on like this sort of ideas that I had.
I really like what you did with this. I think this can be a beginning of something new. I
Mm,
feel like you, it feels like you have the need to go deeper into the whole thing, because I feel that it is a theme that can be explored over and over. It's not something that you can put a full stop and finish it. So I
mm,
think like you can have different angles maybe. And then maybe you can also think about in what other ways you can explore the theme. It's the going with the narrative, it's maybe one way, but then with this way you can have what you were saying, like you have your known way, like how to tell a story through the pictures, and then these pictures have to be certain way, and then you have to have the product, and like all this is in a way limiting you, because
yeah,
you know how to express yourself in that way, but then on the other hand, like you do what you know how to do, and then
yeah,
like this is keeping you within the certain boundaries. So maybe like this is the way to step out of it. I think what you did with this, and I think this is just the beginning. I see a lot of potential in how many directions this can go. Like I would be thinking like maybe different materials, and like how can you make it more alive. For
yeah,
example, like it gave me the idea when the only painting, the red and blue, like with the child, that
Hmm.
one, it's like that's the only different painting. I think like it has like it reminds me a little bit of Edward Monk
Yeah.
with the scream, you know,
Yeah,
like.
that was actually I took an inspiration from one of his paintings
Uh-huh.
for this. Yeah.
But I mean, not just for the composition, but with the expressionism, you know, because like
Mm,
it's kind of like a little bit raw with colors and with the like using the material and like everything. It's like just it's raw, but in a good way because it's
mm,
expressive. So I feel like this can be maybe a direction to think about because it doesn't have to be like polished drawing. It can be something more in this direction, like more abstract, more unpolished, more raw. Like you can
mm,
just have like all these sketches that can be something like interventions that don't have to be finished. So maybe you can think about it. And also, it crossed my mind, like it has something like you were mentioning hero's journey and all of this. Like it
mm.
crossed my mind how like there is a correlation maybe with like all the ancient traditions and like shamanism and things like I'm always talking about shamanism,
Yeah,
but
no.
like I see it everywhere because it's kind of like the root of everything. So in that way,
Mm,
like in shamanism there is no linear way of telling the story.
yeah.
Like usually they use a symbol of a spiral because
Mm,
like there is a different positions in space and time where we can be present. So it's kind of like maybe you can apply it in a way in your story because like we move in a spiral, we go up and down and back and forth, and it's like it's not just like a straightforward line.
yeah.
Maybe that can be some kind of inspiration. But I
Yeah.
would encourage you, like you did a really good job with the exhibition, like layering different approaches during the whole research process.
Mm,
So like when you were putting it in space, I think like uh, that was something like to make the drawings more alive. They are not just in a booklet, they're not like clean and like the
mm,
whole space became alive because you were using like ribbons and like the drawings and like these little papers. They became like almost like a sculptures because they were hanging in space, and like the whole space became like an installation. I think you did a good job there. Like it was very natural. Like I gave you some of the ideas, but then like you really did it yourself. So I think in that way, like you have tendency to create more sculptural, like using the space. Maybe think in this direction. How can you position these either characters or maybe using parts of the narrative? It doesn't have to be, like the whole story. Maybe you can go deeper within like what depression means for you now, like in different times,
mm, mm.
or like what it means for different people and how it puts you in perspective and positioning. Like you can explore like each of these themes like as separate themes, like even though that like they can come back together maybe again in relation to the whole thing, but like maybe I don't know, I'm just like doing brainstorming, giving you some ideas, but
Yeah, no, it's really nice to hear that I did. And like, yeah, I do think I like limit myself. I think because I'm an illustrator as like as a professional illustrator as well, like there is this idea of like you said the word like product focused, and it's like, oh God, it's so I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I do. And like I have to sort of like everything has to be finished and completed and like ticked off, okay, yeah, that's done, and like put it in the past, move on, and like this linear way of working. And actually, yeah, it is very limiting. And
but don't worry about that so much. I mean, we all have certain limitations. It doesn't matter where they come from. For
mm,
example, like I had limitations with the type of school and a way what we did, and uh, I mean, like, not to go deeper into what kind of limitations who has, like, we all have
Mm.
some kind of limitations. Let's just stop with that. But then,
Yeah.
like, what the main thing is what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to overcome it? Like, are you trying to work with them? Are you trying, like, for me,
For me,
I don't know why I hear the echoing of myself.
Maybe someone needs to mute or something. Ah.
Mm,
yeah.
I don't
Shall
know.
shall I mute?
Yeah, I think now it's okay. Like,
Oh,
it's just it's some, maybe with switching screens something happened.
mm.
What I wanted to say.
Oh, sorry. You were talking about limitations.
Right. Limitations. Right. I remember. I think, like, with limitations, we can accept them as kind of like let's call it a mistake. I have this theory that we all have something that we don't like, that we're trying to correct, like we would correct a mistake. And in that way, like, we have to accept our own mistakes. And then when we accept them, then we can see what we're going to do with them. If we don't accept them, we will be always trying to work around them, or, like, to clean them up and try to make them nice. And that's just make them bigger, like it makes
Yeah.
it more noticeable. And then, like, if we accept them, then we get actually a chance to do something with it. So, like, I don't know if this makes sense. Like, for me,
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to tell it from my own experience. For example, like, in when I started drawing, I was never good with, like, perspective, and, like, some people have the eye and hand coordination. They just know, like, they see and they know how to draw everything. I was really struggling with that. And then, like, and that was really obvious in all my drawings. Like, they look always like a beginner's, like something was, like, fucked up in some way.
Mm.
And then, like, as much as I was trying to correct that, like, that was just looking like more amateurish. But then when I just accepted that that's the way it is, it's going to look like that, and then, like, let's just see what we can do with it. Then, like, I started to create, like, the whole poetics, and, like, the whole, let's call it, handwriting. And, like, just by accepting that it's going to look a little bit ugly, like, that I'm not the one that can have it, like, from the first try, like, to do it all nice and clean and, polished. Like, I had kind of like the opposite problem. Like, you can do it really nice and polished, I can't. So, like, I had to accept that I cannot do that. And then, like, I had to accept that and to see what I can do with it. And then actually my drawings started to look interesting. Like, they were kind of like, like, ugly in their own way, but then they started to be beautiful in their own way, as ugly as they are. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you're following me. Like, I'm a little bit tired because I didn't sleep all night. So I'm
No.
kind of like,
No,
I'm not really sure if this makes any sense. But, like,
yeah, I'm following. I think I do something similar where I get nervous. I have a good idea and I get nervous about not executing it perfectly. And then I just decide to do it in a really bad way. And then I try to
yeah,
do it. Yeah. And most of the times it's not super bad, but I just really try to not care and do a bad job. And then I'll restart and do a better job.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
usually the first try is like, it's not that bad actually.
But it's so liberating. Like, you allow
Yeah.
yourself to make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it takes away all the pressure of creating this great idea that you have. And if you're just thinking, I'm gonna do a really bad job, it seems really easy and you relax and you just, go for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that's a good method.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So what would be, Rosie, for example, for you, like, stepping out of the comfort zone? Like, what is the materials, or, like, something that you get attracted to do, but you're scared?
Painting. Painting definitely. Like this, where is it? The one that using color. Using color is like um I think we're getting an echo. I don't know.
Maybe it's me.
Ah,
Last time I had my mic on, yeah, is it me?
We were cut out in the middle of
Oh
the
yeah, of course.
sentence.
We were just got to ask me what thing I scare was it like what scares me?
Yeah, but
Um,
also at the same time attracts you to do.
yeah, color for sure. I I'm always terrified of using color. So I'm working on a project at the moment. It's like storyboarding. And I've been doing the whole thing in like one color just to like get the ideas done. And at the end they were like, "Are you gonna do color?" And I was like, "Nope." You can we've like been interviewing some other animators. I was like, "This guy, he's gonna do it." He's gonna do it for me.
But I mean, that's something that takes responsibility if you're doing it for a job. Like you have to do
Yeah,
it for
yeah,
yourself. Like,
exactly.
yeah, it's
But
different.
yeah, but it definitely attracts me, and I think yeah, it scares me. And I don't really know why. I think I think I think my first initial kind of instinctive way of making pictures is to draw, is to making my
Hmm.
work and expressing myself is drawing and mark making. Um, and so what will often happen is I'll like draw the lines and then I'll be like, I've got to color it in and I don't know what to color it in. If I color it in, I'll fuck it up. So I'm just not gonna do it and it's just gonna
Maybe, you know what would be a good cure for you? Like to get like a really thick brush, like,
mm,
the thicker the better, like this thick brush. And then like not very big canvas, like it could be just like this size and so thick brush. So you cannot make mistakes. You just have to do, like you cannot draw with this thick brush. You just have to use color and to make like the
Mm,
mm,
like surfaces, like I don't know what would be the other word in English, like you cannot do the line. I mean, you can do the line, but this line is so thick that it's practically surface, so it's
mhm,
kind of like easier to build like from like little blocks. So in that way everything has to be, like when you kind of like use your eyelashes to look through them and everything is kind of blurry, you cannot see every detail, like you see approximately what it is. In that way, like if you try to see anything that you would paint, like try to paint it in these blurry surfaces, and then like you cannot do what you're used to do. Like just try it for the exercise and try to
mm.
ruin it. Who cares? Like you can always paint it white again and then like start over.
That's a great idea.
And
Yeah.
maybe
I
you
also
can do one of the characters, sorry, like
Mm,
something that's familiar, that's something that's already in your mind, and then like what is it that you're imagining? Like what you did with a small painting, like what color is it? What is it? What's the sensation? Like, like just use the colors to revoke the sensation. It doesn't have to represent exactly what it is, like, like it doesn't have to have a narrative within the color. Like Cassandra can tell you something about it. Like she's using the colors really well in
mm,
that sense.
Yeah, I just like to only use color. Like when I draw lines and stuff, like every line can be like any color. Um, yeah,
mm,
I like to use as many colors as possible.
mm.
But does it make sense to Cassandra, for example, what I was saying? Like you're using it as lines, but in the similar sense with what I was saying. Like these colors are creating a sensation for you.
Yeah, I love combining like colors in a gradient, like yellow and orange and like pink. And I find like the how the colors mix together affects like how I feel.
mm,
I remember when I was doing portraits, I was using colors. Oh, first time I started using color, like, and I thought I had no idea how to do it. So just basically looking, for example, looking in one of your faces, and I see like, okay, there is a red. I find red, and I start drawing with the color, exactly that patch of the red. and then the next color, the next, and then I made the whole portrait just finding patches of colors on the face, and in the end, it was a portrait. So it's
And
all
exaggerating them in a
yeah,
way, like you
yeah,
would be seeing some kind of
yeah,
reflection, and then you would
yeah.
exaggerate, like there is more of that.
And there is a face at the end of that. Like you don't need to draw it first and then use the technique, how you use colors, how you tonally produce the surfaces and everything. So there are, I guess, millions of ways. I noticed something interesting about your work that like David Lynch, you can use that kind of thing. Like he's in narrative, but also his image is outside of narrative,
Mm.
even though it's in the story. So the way he basically paints his images in his
Mm,
movies or TV series, not all the time. It is rare in a sense, but those images that he paints, those scenes are the crucial ones. Those are that everybody remembers. Like they are the part of the
Right.
story, but you remember them as something different also.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And the other thing is that I noticed something interesting because I would never think of it like that. And like you said, I don't know how to, did you say how to use anger or how to do with anger? It's like, I was like, really? Like that's the basic emotion in Serbia. Like that's why you went there.
That's
yeah,
all we know.
Yeah, you
yeah,
can
maybe
work
it's
with
a
anger, believe
British
me,
thing.
it's very potent like thing, You can shape it all around,
No,
So
but each of the characters are so potent. Like you can develop and work on them in so many different ways. Like I would create a ritual or a mask, or like you
Mm,
can. I mean, that's what I would do. But like I'm just giving you ideas. Like you can just go in so many different directions.
yeah, and it's something that I think about all the time. It's like I think I was like starting to do like when I was talking about these like little drawings of the dogs and stuff like that, and I was just like, hang on, what am I like? Obviously, it's interesting, but I was just like trying to like find this new project, and I was like, I still have this unfinished, not even unfinished. Like I still have this really rich body of work that I'm really excited to to kind of work with. So yeah, I'm just sort of like looking back on it, and I do find that sometimes as well, like I get like weird. What's the word when you like forget things?
Forgetfulness.
Amnesia.
Amnesia. I feel like I get project project amnesia where I'm like, I just forget that I've done all of this stuff, and then I'm like
Uh-huh.
getting all like excited about like a new idea or a new something, and then I just
Mhm.
sort of neglect all of this other work that I've done. And
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
your old ideas are old and boring? Like they're not old for other people, but for you, they're like that
Mm,
you already know about them. They're uninteresting.
yeah.
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 yeah, yeah, and I just sort of like they go into like a sketchbook and or they go in a folder and yeah, and then I just sort of forget that they exist, and then yeah, but with this project it was a big project, and it was so like impactful to me that there's so many characters and um possible avenues that it's just hard not to leave alone, which feels good actually. um
But I think maybe because I really like the comic as well, even though
mm,
it's cleaned up, like it doesn't have the same soul as the drawings, right?
yeah.
But I like it still. It's its own thing. I love comics, and it's a really
Mm,
like artistically made comic, which I think is great. And comics are like pretty clean, and so I think that works on its own. And then the drawings feels like a separate expression of the same thing. So I think it could just, if you would like to, it could just be an ongoing energy that just creates different forms of expressions.
Yeah.
I like both sides to them, like both the cleaned up one and the soulful kind of original.
mm,
Also loving the ribbon thing. It's like it's super smart. And it's so true too. Like you didn't want to be brave. You just don't give me a prize for it, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I do sometimes think of like also I was thinking about, soldiers that come back from war and they've seen all this like crazy shit and they've been through trauma and they've lost their legs and then someone's like, here's a little ribbon for you. like like
Yeah.
and it seems it just feels very absurd to me. um
Is it cultural thing with the ribbons? Like I can't remember that. Like Boschko, Yulia, do you think that we have anything similar, like ribbons? Or I never noticed ribbons until she
we,
said so.
we
Like,
as
do
nations
we?
spent all the ribbons long time ago.
No, really, I don't know that we have anything like
I
it.
don't think so.
But but
We
isn't
have
it
medals.
ribbon?
We
Yeah,
have
exactly.
medals,
It's
but
but it can also be like made out of fabric, and I think it's called a ribbon, but it's more like a metal kind of
yeah, they have
thing.
like a medal with like a little ribbon
Mhm.
part
Mhm.
of it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have like the little I don't know if it's on, maybe it is just the British Army, but they have like, these old soldiers, but they have like little different color bits of ribbon depending on like
Mhm.
which are awarded for different kinds of bravery and stuff.
We also have that. My father has
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
from
Mm.
war. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So just the
And also
ribbon.
No, it's
for the
it's the
military,
medal. It's the medal with ribbon.
Yeah, I know with a
and
like combination medal and the ribbon. Like I've never seen like so maybe like in UK you have only the ribbons. We know it in combination with medals.
Mm. We have medals as well, but yeah, they have like these ribbons. And then the other thing that they do as well is these um when it's like cancer awareness, and then there's these like little ribbon
Mhm.
piece
Hmm.
of ribbon that people wear for cancer, like
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
that's the symbol for cancer
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like
yeah.
raising awareness. Yeah.
awareness.
um
There is a difference between Medal of Honor and just a ribbon, because Medal of Honor has a medal and a ribbon, and this is just a ribbon, right?
Mm,
I think.
mm,
So.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. But it's an interesting subject also. Like you can explore this on its own.
Mm,
Like because it's something that like it was logical for you, but then like we can have a debate, like is it for who, does it have the same meaning, and like does your audience perceive it in the same way? Is it so obvious, or is it something that you can maybe like dig deeper or make it even more obvious, or should it be hidden, or should it be obvious, or like all these questions.
mm.
I would.
I liked the kind of duality of the ribbon as well, and
Mm.
is because it kind of to me, like I imagined like the river, which was sort of like like this kind of winding trajectory of time, was like a ribbon as well in my mind. So it's like, yeah, like a ribbon through the country, or geographically, or through time, or um, so it has these like multiple meanings, I guess. um yeah, yeah, lots to watch.
but I wanted to ask you, Rosie, were you hoping or planning on finishing this project on grief, or were you thinking you were gonna continue and just let it exist whenever?
I think when I was sort of halfway through the exhibition, I realized that the residency, I realized that it was going to be like an ongoing thing, just because there is so much there. um and grief is always like an ongoing thing as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not
Mhm.
just tied up in a little with a little bow, whatever, a little ribbon.
Mm.
It's something that you have to, this like messy thing you have to kind of, you're constantly working out, and it's constantly like surprising you. So yeah, it's definitely I definitely think it's an ongoing thing. The comic as well was intended to be like ongoing as well, like episodic. So yeah, I haven't had.
So the characters are very strong, like on their own. So I think you have years of work if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have lots of like ideas as well of like how they interact with each other, and yeah, this sort of like how they change and how they interact with the place as well, like with the river. Like I had the idea, so Quinn, who represents bargaining, which I found was like such a weird, it was like a really weird phase of grief. I was like, what the hell is bargaining with? Like, I'm not going to be like, I don't know, chatting to someone like, here's some money, take my grief away or something.
Have you seen the movie called All That Jazz?
No, what is that?
It's an old movie. I can't remember, like some famous director. Boshko, do you remember the name?
No.
So the guy discovers that like he's going to die, and then like he's going through all the stages, like denial, whatever. Like I never can name all the stages, but like all the ones that you name.
Yeah.
And then like so like he's kind of like also bargaining, like, and like at the end accepting, but like I have to find it. Like it's an amazing movie. It could be interesting.
Well, that jazz.
I think it's from 70s or something.
Yeah, it does. It does ring a bell. Maybe I kind of came across it on my research or something, but I haven't seen it. Yeah, it's funny.
I'm trying to find it.
It's musical from 1979. Oh my
It's a
God,
musical.
I'm old. Like
Yeah.
I know the movies from 1979.
And I cannot find it. That's amazing. How is this possible? This is like very famous movie.
Yeah.
Where are you searching for it, Boshko?
IMDb.
There is in Wikipedia. I can send you this, and then
Interesting.
I'll definitely look that up. That looks really.
I can send in the group chat. So.
Oh well, thanks for all of the feedback, guys. This is like, it's really nice to like talk about the project again, and I definitely I liked this idea of maybe making.
What happened? Only Rosie is frozen.
Yeah.
We all froze.
Oh no, only Rosie is frozen.
Frozen, or she's thinking very hard.
Very hard. I like the dedication. It's like, I want to think it all the way. I don't want to say it, but I think it through. Yeah.
I don't know if she knows the. Okay, Rosie, do you hear? Yes, you're back. You were frozen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, you guys were frozen as well. So
Okay.
Oh really?
Maybe
maybe it would be a good idea if you create something, like you have a very short time until next Saturday, like create something, and then when we have the meeting we discuss it. So it's kind of like continuation of this.
Yeah.
And then like, and you don't have a lot of time to think, so you just have to do it.
Okay.
Oh, you can present it in front of everyone at supermarket.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No pressure.
No pressure.
Sorry, no, you don't have to do that.
So my task is to do a bad job. That's what I've
Yes.
Yeah, and then tell it to the world.
Make bad art.
Yeah.
Show everyone.
Yeah. After that, you're good.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm gonna do it. I will do it.
Do something. If you
Well,
can't think of anything else, just do a painting with a thick brush. That's the easiest thing to do.
The thick brush.
I
Yeah.
can't remember which is the movie. The coach is trying to teach his student. It's a tennis player coach. He's trying to teach him how to overcome his fear for the match, the big one, because he's so nervous and frustrated about. And he makes him do some stupid things on the court, like so embarrassing, like very embarrassing. And at the end, he asks, like, "Why did we do that?" He's like, well, after this humiliation, you will have no problem in the match. Like you hit the bottom now. It's like you're so humiliated now, you can relax and just go into the match next day or whatever.
So after that, you will be free to do whatever you want.
mm,
Yeah. Bosko